Now, also today, one of Belarus's leading opposition figures has been sentenced to 14 years in prison. Viktor Babaryko was convicted of corruption in a decision condemned widely in the West, as well as by the opposition in exile. The court's decision marks just the latest crackdown on critics of the president, Alexander Lukashenko. Before his arrest last year, Babaryko was seen as a popular candidate to defeat Lukashenko in a general election. Well, let's discuss this with our Foreign Affairs editor, Armin Georgian, who's with me now. Armin, I suppose this arrest shows that Lukashenko is as determined as he ever was to crush challenges to his rule.
Well, Viktor Babaryko is sort of one of these figureheads, really, that, as you said, was seen as the main rival to Alexander Lukashenko, but he was arrested before that election in August 2020. The person who actually ended up being the main opposition candidate at that time, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, she now lives in exile in Lithuania. So these two kind of heavyweights, if you will, of the opposition are either under arrest or forced into exile. But it's not just the figureheads, of course, that have been targeted. Remember that an estimated 35,000 people were detained in that crackdown on demonstrations after the presidential election of 2020. So I think what this latest court verdict shows is that Lukashenko is determined to serve out his sixth term in office, or at least to organize a transition in a manner of his own choosing and not on anyone else's terms. And he certainly does not plan to lose control the way that Viktor Yanukovych did in Ukraine in 2014.
Now, what do you think of the role that Western pressure may have on the situation in the country?
It's probably a little bit early to say. We'll have to see how the sanctions actually trickle down. But the EU imposed sanctions at the end of June. Obviously, the Ryanair incident and the arrest of Roman Protasevich very much renewed the EU's focus on Belarus and events there. The latest round of EU sanctions is actually a lot stricter than previous ones, which had essentially blacklisted Belarusian officials. This round of sanctions, which just came into force in late June, targets key exports of Belarus, particularly petrochemicals and a salt which is used in fertilizer. It's called potash, and it's actually the main export that Belarus has. So as a result of these EU sanctions, Nadia, Belarus will now have to find another way to get those exports out, particularly the potash stuffs, and that's going to be a more arduous and complicated process because it's going to have to go through other countries and ports now. So it's not that exports are going to be stopped, but they probably will become a little bit more complicated. Also note that it's not just the EU, also the US, Canada and Britain have all expanded measures since that the forced landing of the Ryanair plane. Does all of this change Lukashenko's calculus? Probably not, but it does put the screws on the economy in a way that the West hadn't really done before.
Armin Georgian, thank you very much.